Recording. Okay, there we go. I found the right button. All right. So I tried to put some, structure together to this, but I want this to be like a conversational kind of thing, because this is not just about Dana, talking to everybody. It's, as we're going through, if somebody has some words of wisdom they want to add, or they have a question, and I might not know the answer to all the questions, obviously, but what we'll do is we'll do some research and then get back to you. Oops, I'm gonna put somebody else in here. Oh, I'm sorry. There's more people popping up here. I'm letting them in. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Tom. Everybody connected? Tracy, that's a beautiful pool behind you.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll just give a couple more minutes. But so there's a guy that I'm trying to get to come to be a speaker in one of these meetings, and he is a genius when it comes to kids and social media and all the different these apps. He actually has I did a video on it with kind of a funny spin, and then at the end of it, there's going to be a link that if you want to click on, he's got 97 apps, and it'll tell you what age is appropriate for which kids and what's actually going on these apps versus what they say is going on these apps. So his name is Josh Oakes, and his company is Smart Social. And so I told him, well, maybe if we can't get him on here, he could at least do a video. But he goes around and he speaks at schools, not right now, obviously, but he has some virtual training that he gives for parents. And so, we all didn't grow up with this craziness of all this stuff that these kids have now. So it's hard for us to really understand what they're doing and what we don't know they're doing. So anyway, all right, we're going to get started now. So I've got the recording going. That started. Okay. So I'm not sure if everybody got the email. There was a little bit of confusion with the email. So I tried to go through and find the people that didn't get the email and then message them in LinkedIn today. So we have a small group that some of you may belong to. That's the Dana's Cyber Warriors in LinkedIn. So what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to invite everybody to that group. And only because the next time we have the meeting, I'm going to put the link in there as well. So that way, if for some reason somebody doesn't get the link in the email, doesn't get the email, or whatever the case may be, there'll be a backup that everybody can just, go to. Hopefully the email works, because what I want to do is after this, whatever questions we kind of come up with and information we want to look into or whatever, that we can then find out the answers and then send it off to everybody. So that would be good. Oh, hold on, let me do this one. Because what the goal is here is for all of us to start having these conversations with our friends, with our family, with our clients, with whoever, because identity theft is going to affect everybody possibly. Everybody's a potential victim. So the more we can get the conversation started and the more we can start educating the kids from a younger age that this is definitely a reality that they need to deal with, it's easier to deal with. So anyway, so I'm going to invite everybody to that group. Let's see, I'll post the links to the meeting so you can get that. All right. Okay, so I said feel free to ask questions, obviously. Another thing I'm going to be sending a link to everybody for is there is a gentleman on here, I don't know if you've seen him, his product is called Wiser, and what he does is training for email training, phishing training, all that kind of stuff. And he put together a great little thing. It's called a Wisenary, and it's basically like a little dictionary for geek talk to English translation. So it takes technical terms and it breaks it down so people like us can understand it. So I'll send you guys a link to that. It's got a lot of good information in there for all of us regular folks. Another little thing I wanted to just let everybody know that the credit agencies or credit bureaus have decided that between now, and I think it started last month, now in April 2021, you can run your credit for free each month with all of them. That's really new, because before you could run it for free one time per year, but now you can run it for free each month if you wanted to. So take advantage of that if you like. Sorry?
Does that hurt your credit though?
No, that's not a hard pull on your credit. That's just so that you can look to see what kind of activity is on it. That's a very good question, because obviously sometimes if you're getting a loan or you're applying for credit, looking for something, that's considered a hard pull, and then that will doesn't necessarily hurt your credit, but if you just start running your credit all the time looking for money, that's what the banks look for. They're like, well, why is this person looking for money here and looking for money there? So anyway, let's Victor in here. Okay, so that's a good thing. And I'll also mention that too in the follow-up email about the credit bureaus. All right, so the way I wanted to kind of structure this whole thing was to break things down so that we can wrap our head around this whole thing, and starting with the items that are found in your home, okay? So obviously the first thing is the documents that are very, very important. So we need to identify which documents we are talking about. I have a list here that I will include as well. And basically it's, legal documents, your social security card, birth certificates, passports, marriage licenses, divorce decrees, that kind of thing. And tax information, property records, medical records, your financial records. And the next question is, well, how long do you need to keep all this stuff for? So this is my guideline for a minimum amount of time that you should be keeping this stuff. I'll explain a little bit here. So the bank statements, you should keep them for at least a year, right? At least a year. Keep them for longer if you want longer, but I think they should definitely be at least a year. You can check with, you need to look at the bank statements. This is another thing that we all do. The bank statement comes in and you kind of just toss it to the side, but you really should just quickly glance over the activity that's in there, because different banks have different policies for how long they will allow you to report stolen or lost funds. So if you're looking at that regularly, then you're going to at least catch something. If you open your bank statements every 6 months and you see something that happened a while ago, it's going to be very, very difficult to prove to them. So I know it sounds silly, but opening up the bank statements and the credit card statements and looking those over, as well as the explanation of benefits, making sure that somebody else coming here, making sure that anything that it actually says that somebody received a surgery or something like that, that somebody in your home that's on your insurance actually did get. I did a funny video on somebody having a baby or somebody having knee surgery, and actually looking and saying, nobody had a baby and nobody had knee surgery. So open it up, take a quick look, and then hold on to it. Let's say the medical records again, same thing for a year. So if you had any kind of dispute, a year from when the claim was paid. Tax statements, a minimum of 7 years. Your property records, I would just keep those forever. Why get rid of those? And legal documents. So another thing with the legal documents is, like, if you have a will, or if you have a living will or a power of attorney, and you need to make sure somebody else knows that those documents exist, right? And it's always a good idea too to have a second set somewhere else, right? So we're gathering up all these documents so we can have them here, but important things like that, if you have an advisor or your close friend, your brother, your sister, somebody else should have, some of these, because when these things are needed, it's usually something's not going too well at the time. So that's something to keep in mind, to let somebody who is a trusted individual, you give them a second set of those. So that was that. And then the question is where to keep them. So I recommend either one of three things: a fireproof filing cabinet, right? Put it in there, boop, close it up. Or this is a fire resistant bag. It's very thick, and it's got a big heavy Velcro thing that I won't be able to open up right now, but you can put everything in here. And the difference is that the filing cabinet gets fireproof, so it's going to make it through the fire. You'll have all your stuff in there. This is fire resistant, but you can grab this and go, right? So that's the advantage with this. Remember those poor people in California when their houses are burning down and they had to just quickly run around their house and grab stuff? So at least you could grab this and you have most of your important stuff in there. Another option is you could scan it and then put it on a USB or upload it to a cloud service. That might be an option, but I don't know if I would do that, but you could do that. So that's that with the documents. So I know this stuff is so boring, and I figured I need to break this up in between, because no one is going to want to sit here and listen to me yammer on about this stuff forever. So we're done with the documents now, right? So now I have a funny story, and it was supposed to have a nice color picture, but I printed it out, and it's printed out in black and white, but you'll get the funny story anyway. So it's a funny, not so funny story. So this girl here, her name is Brittany. She's a young girl, and she was living in the city, and she needed to find a roommate. So Michelle said, I'll be your roommate. So they moved in together, and they were having a grand old time. Everything was good. Michelle started getting a little weird, started dressing a lot like Brittany, the same haircut. Remember Single White Female, that movie, right? Yeah, a little bit creepy. So One day, Brittany gets this phone call from the police, and the policeman says, you need to come down here and bail your roommate out of jail. Your roommate, Brittany. And she says, well, my name is Brittany. What do you mean my roommate? No, we have her down here. We have her. She's got her documentation, her driver's license, credit cards, everything. So she had stolen Brittany's identity and made a false driver's license and such. I guess even better. Okay. So she goes down there. She says, well, we got to get this straightened out. So she goes down, and it turns out that Michelle was actually Richard Phillips. He's a transgender man. She was living with a man, and he stole her identity, and he was pretending he was a woman. Yeah. Not funny? Not so funny, but funny. So I figured I'd have to break that up. So
That's terrible.
I know, it's crazy. So I figured I'd need to break up some of this stuff because this is a little dry. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share right now about anything? Well, I don't know about anything, but.
I actually had a case like that today.
You did? What are the chances?
I got a call this morning from a woman who needed to be fingerprinted because someone stole her identity, and it's causing all kinds of problems. So well, right now because of COVID, we're not doing fingerprinting.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I told her, I said, go to your local PD, have them fax it over to me, and we'll check it out. Well, it was exactly the same thing. There was somebody that she lived with had stolen her identity and really had a great time.
Well, did she turn out to be a man, or is not?
No, it was two women.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But
still bad. It's bad.
Yeah. But I mean, her roommate really did some damage.
That's terrible.
It's like, good luck cleaning that up.
I remember when we connected, Renee, and I said to myself, I bet this lady's got a lot of good stories.
Oh, I can give you some of my own experience.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, we'll have to chat sometime so you can fill me in on those, and maybe we'll have you can be a guest speaker. Talk about fingerprinting.
Absolutely.
All right, good stuff. Okay, so now we're getting back to the serious stuff, right?
Hey, Dana?
Yes, hi.
Yes. You talked about the documents, and you talked about, the basically in paper form. Well, in my geek world, we try to keep everything electronically. I was just wondering how much you're going to cover that in the future as far as the people in the world like me who want to be 100% paperless.
Well, I'll definitely cover that, and I think it would be a good idea for me and you to have a talk, and we can put our heads together, and you can give me some words of wisdom on what your take is on all that, and you can help the group that way. How about that, Tom?
All right, because I think it's ironic. I watch people print things out on a piece of paper just so they can scan them and save them electronically.
Well, that's true. But I have a little bit of a sensitive issue with this because I had two very, very, very good friends die at very different times, right? So one was back in 2008 and one was 2 years ago. And the difference with dealing with the aftermath, when you don't have paper documents or paper statements that are coming in the mail or anything like that, nobody had any idea what to look for. We knew that one of them had a storage rental facility somewhere in Massachusetts, but nobody could find out what that was because everything again was done online and paid for with a credit card, that the statement was online. So that was, and I see what you're saying with, avoiding the paper. But there's some stuff I think you have to have on paper. I guess you're going to say no, but.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know. We'll have to find a balance on that because it is something that's it's a preference with people. I know I tend to be a paper person, which is as you're saying, it's not necessarily good, but maybe we can come up with some simple ways to build people's confidence that if they store things electronically, then they'll know where they are and they'll tell someone else where they are. This is a good point. So at the beginning of this whole thing that was going on, I have a connection who is a CISO. He's a Chief Information Security Officer over in London, and he was volunteering in the hospitals. He's done a lot. I did a video on him the other day. And anyway, he said people kept calling him, asking how to break into people's phones and laptops, these people that had died. These are the relatives calling to say, how do we get in to find out what the accounts are or anything like that? And so what he wanted me to do was do a video, and I did do this, on making sure you're sharing information with at least one other person so that people know that they can get into their wife's phone or this, because, during the whole COVID thing, the poor person finally is at home. They are so ill, you decide they have to go to the hospital. So the ambulance comes, you're taking them, and then there they go. And then unfortunately, in some of these situations, there's no communication, where that poor person is just trying to heal in the hospital, and whatever status you left things at before this happened, that's what you know, and that's what you have. So that's another important thing, is making sure that somebody else at least knows, where your stuff is, whether it be paper or electronic, and knows how to get into it. So anyway.
That's the key.
Hi, Victor.
Yeah.
Are you at the beach, Victor?
Yeah. 120 feet up off the ground. One thing, the notifying people about where things are and how to get access to them. A good tool, LastPass, has kind of like, if I'm not accessible after 48 hours or a certain period of time, trusted people have access to your account.
That's a good idea. Look into that.
Yeah, it's part of LastPass.
Okay. Well, there's also something that I remember back in the day I was thinking of getting involved in. It's called, not Eversource, that's our electric company here. I don't remember what it's called, but anyway, it's the same thing. You can assign different people to have access to be like your chief of your medical information or your financial information, and a sheriff, that's what it is. So that sheriff. So then if you pass on, that person can get access into whatever it is. You can upload documents, all that kind of stuff. So that might be something that I need to look back into, talk about that. But I'll look at the LastPass thing too. Okay. All right, so let's see, what did we just finish talking about? We just finished talking about documents, and we did our funny already. So now we're gonna talk about the phone. The phone, if anybody even still has a phone at home. But we need to talk about who's gonna call and who's not gonna call. So government agencies are not going to call you on the phone. We need to make sure that we let our friends, and especially our elder relatives or clients or whatever, let them know that they're not going to get a phone call from government agencies. And then what also happens too is these scammers is they spoof the phone number when it's as it's coming in. So the poor person answers the phone, they look down, it says Social Security Administration. They think they're talking to someone at Social Security. So that person starts talking to them about, oh, you're due for a cost of living adjustment. All we need to do is get into your bank account and make a deposit. And then, it'll just be automatic from that point forward. And meanwhile, now the scammer's getting into this poor person's bank account. So that's not good. But anyway, they're not going to call. And I know sometimes, especially the elder people, they feel bad, being rude to people on the phone. But if we just tell them, just tell them this. Thank you very much. You can send that to me in the mail, and I will take care of it. And if they really are calling from Social Security Administration, which they wouldn't be, they would know the address. So we need to make sure that they don't start giving away the address, to the person on the phone too. But that's just a nice way to get out of, not being rude to the person, just saying, thank you very much. You just send that to me in the mail, and then get off the phone as quickly as they can. So again, good information for us to be sharing with everybody and getting these conversations started. I mean, even if just us, if just this group of people wound up telling, 5 or 6 extra people, some of this information that we're talking about now, it starts to multiply, and then they start to tell, their friends and their coworkers or, whoever. You can see, we're like creating a movement here. Isn't this great? We're all part of a movement. Speaking of which, what? Go ahead.
It's like the Brady Bunch.
It is like the Brady Bunch. Another thing I wanted to mention to you guys, we need to come up with a name for our group. Should be something fun, should be something serious, should be something. So everybody put their little thinking cap on, and then if you come up with any ideas, what we can call ourselves, just send me a message, and then we'll sort through them and we'll come up with a good one, right? Okay, good. Okay, here's another one we should share on the phone, which is the grandparent scam, okay? This is terrible. So what these scammers will do is they'll go look around on social media, and they'll find, grandma has a son named John, a grandson named Johnny, and they're celebrating Johnny's birthday. So she posts a little picture of it. So then they call and they pretend that they are Johnny, and this is a very urgent matter. They immediately need money. That's what it's all about. It's always playing off of the emotions, and it always has to happen right away. So when somebody gets a call and they say, hi, this is Johnny, Oh, hi, Johnny. How are you? I'm good, but I need some money. Can you do me a favor? And can you just quickly, send me, go to Western Union and send me $2,500. I'm in kind of a bad situation, whatever the case may be. And I really need you to do it now. And please don't tell anybody. Just go and do this. They're playing off of that whole entire, like, oh my goodness, Johnny's in trouble. What am I going to do? I'm going to go send him his money. This happens a lot more than you could possibly imagine. So what the person needs to do is catch their breath and just stop for a minute and say, let me see if there's any other way I can find out what's happening with Johnny. Call Johnny's mom, call Johnny's dad, find out some way where Johnny is, get a return phone number, because if Johnny really is in trouble, they're going to give you a return phone number. So you could take down their phone number and then you can find out what's happening with Johnny. And chances are nothing is wrong with him and this is just a scam. But again, if you tell someone ahead of time that, then they're anticipating it, as opposed to, oh, I heard that happen to a friend of mine or whatever. It's getting ahead of letting people know about this possibility. Doesn't mean that's going to happen to them, but it may. I had it happen to me. This is going back, I don't know, maybe like 15 years ago. I was at work and somebody called and said that my father was down in New Jersey, and he was in New Jersey, and that he was involved in some kind of an accident or whatever, and that I had to wire him money. And I just, again, I got so caught up in the whole idea. I knew my dad was in New Jersey, and he needed something, right? So anyway, it was a scam. It was a scam, but I almost fell for it. I did. So the grandparent scam, good thing to talk about. The immediacy and the whole secrecy of it. Like stranger danger, I have that here, stranger danger. I know it sounds terrible, but the seniors are a huge target and they like to talk to people on the phone too. So that makes it even worse. All right, but hope is here, a little bit of hope. So there's two things we can do here. We can make sure that we are on the do not call list, and that they're not on the do not call list. You can also put your cell phone on there too. And then also you can stop robocalls on your cell phone and on your home line. There's two different ways you have to do it. But the FTC recommends, the company is called No Mo Robo. And again, I'll put this information in the link. And you can sign up on your cell phone. I have it on my cell phone, and I can't believe how much it cuts back on the robocalls. I think the only people that are legally allowed to call for robocalls are if it's a political party. It's something like that, if it's associated with political. Not that anybody wants to hear that these days, but anyway, I think there's some reason that they have a right to use the robocall machine or something like that. But it's very limited as to who's allowed to use it legally. So this really does, get rid of all of them. So it's a nice little thing. All right, back to the phone. People calling and asking for money, Oh, hi.
Hi. Do not call list. That's enforced in North America. And when you put yourself on that do not call list, it's quite often published to countries like India. And there's nothing stopping them from using it. So
that's great.
Yes. And the phishing right now, there's an agreement with, I think it's AT&T and Verizon and Sprint, where all VoIP calls that originate from the United States, they have to be authenticated. So it's getting more of a challenge to do that phishing from within North America, because Canada also has that arrangement. So you're going to get these phishing calls normally from India or Russia or wherever. So we have some protection in place in North America right now. And this is all new. Canada adopted it January this year.
Well, that's good, because most of those people sound like us anyway, right? So you might now maybe it'll help a little bit when somebody calls and have an accent.
And the grandparent scheme, I helped recover through Western Union $10,000 on exactly that scheme. We actually got the police involved, and they made a call to the head office, the clearinghouse, for money that's Western Union is in Costa Rica. And they were able to put a block on the money and send it back. And there was a lawyer in Montreal that was involved in this. He was the receiver of the money. And
a lawyer in Montreal was the receiver. Oh, lovely.
And the best part is I found out the name. I got all that information. and he claims he worked for the Canadian War Crimes Commission. So I said, oh, that's great, because my brother's the director. And I said, did this guy ever work for you? He says, doesn't sound familiar.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
his bio online was fake. It's but he was a lawyer. He was a practicing lawyer, and he got involved in this.
That's terrible.
Yep. I'll let you get back to it.
No, thanks for your added input. So I'm looking for something here I want to show you, because now I have some conspiracy theory here. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Here it is. So I have been saying forever and ever and ever that I think that our phones are listening to us, right? You know, if you're talking to somebody about something and next thing you know, it's on sale on your phone, you're getting a coupon. I'm like, how is this happening, right? So I thought maybe whatever it is, I was like typing in, you know, so at the same time, I thought we were just talking about it, but I was actually maybe doing a search for it a couple days before. I don't know, because, you know, they track everything and anything. But this proves my point. So I had friends over the other day, and they were talking about building a pond pool. I'm not sure if you know what a pond pool is, but it's like a pool that looks like a pond, and you know, it's very, very natural and whatever. Not something I would ever be interested in, but they are, right? So that's the important thing. So we're talking about the pond pool. And the next day I'm scrolling through my feed, and here I get an advertisement for a pond pool, the alternative to the swimming pool. I'm like, oh, it's proof. It's proof that they're listening. I just did a video on this. It's not out yet, and I talk about how, you know, you have marketing companies that call me that say, hey, we could do SEO for you. We can send postcards out for you. We can, you know, do whatever. That voyeur thing that I talk about, I think about is when you click on something, it downloads cookies, and then it just follows the poor person around for the rest of their life. So anyway, with that, I just lost my train of thought here. Okay, so I've never had anybody ever call me and say, hey, you know what we do? We listen on people's phones, and then we sort through the data, and whatever your product is, we find an audience for it. I've never had anybody. So I'm thinking, well, is this just for like the big companies? Who's working with these people with the listening? Because someone's listening, unless it's just China listening, but China wouldn't have anything to do with the ad for the swimming pool. So there's something to this.
Okay, what about your friends that were interested in the pool, and you're connected via Facebook, or you're constantly tweeting back and forth, whatever, and they mention it, and of course it'll go to all their friends. Like if they're doing a search through Google and you're connected to them and your Facebook buddies, then it all gets correlated, and then you become part of the shotgun approach. They'll spread it out to all your connections.
Well, it's crazy. It's crazy and scary. So I don't like that. But
no one does.
It is what it is, I guess, right? It is what it is. Everywhere. Oh, here. So I have a funny story. I don't think it's that story time yet, so I'm going to wait on that one. This is not really a funny story. It's an ironic story. Okay, so that's my cell phone thing about the photo listening. Now I just want to quickly touch on the computer, the home computer, and the phishing emails, because these phishing emails, they look very good now. Back in the day when it was the prince from Nigeria and it was all misspellings and just text, you know, that's gone, right? So now these are people that are making very, very, very good looking emails that look like they're from FedEx and Amazon and UPS, and you're maybe expecting a package, especially these days, everybody's getting deliveries to their house, and you go to click on it and you're downloading malware onto your computer. So that's not good. We don't want to be doing that. So we want to stop and think. I always suggest that you go, if you're expecting a package, let's say it's from Amazon, go back to your Amazon account and look at it that way, as opposed to clicking on an email that may or may not be, you know, a legitimate one. I never click on those. And same thing with FedEx. You know, FedEx will either alert you, you can track it through their account, as opposed to clicking on the email. So that's just word-wise with that. So another thing with this is your email address is finding out if it has been involved in a data breach. So you could go to, have I been, I always say this wrong, PWNED, it's PWNED, and you can put your email address in, and it will tell you if you have been involved in a data breach, if the email has been involved in a data breach. I always suggest, if that is the case, that you get a new email that you use for your you know, banking accounts or any important accounts that you have. Otherwise, this is why it's a big deal if your email has been involved in a data breach, because as we know, most of our usernames are the email and the password, even though we talk about it all the time. Everybody has the same password for everything because they're not going to remember it. So now there's a little, like Grubhub has a data breach. no big deal, just a little food delivery service. But the problem with that is that your username and password for Grubhub is probably the same email and password that you're using for maybe Bank of America, maybe your Facebook account, your LinkedIn account, anything like that, somebody might be using for all of their accounts with the same password. Sorry, I got someone's trying to get into the room here, letting them in. So that's check to see if it's been involved, and then definitely change your passwords and have different long and strong passwords for everything, or use a password management system. Those are another good thing. They're just a little intimidating to get used to using them. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the group. Okay, so that's the Grubhub story. Now, does anybody know exactly, this is a quiz. Does anybody know exactly how many Americans there are today, as of yesterday? Nobody wants to guess? Okay, all right, no takers. Okay, there are 331,028,744 as of yesterday. If you ever want to look it up, it's like Worldometer or something like that. Now, my point being is we need to focus on the 300 million, right? 300 million. Now we're going to talk about the Equifax breach. The Equifax breach affected 150 million, so that's half. So basically 1 out of 2 Americans was involved in the Equifax breach a few years ago. And that's a big deal, because now we're going to talk about what kind of information the Equifax breach gave away, because it wasn't just passwords and usernames, that's for sure. Social security numbers, date of birth, address, obviously your name. In some instances, driver's license in addition to the following information, credit card numbers for 209,000 people, and certain dispute documents, credit dispute documents, were also included with personal identifying information for 182,000. So social security number, name, you name it, everything about you, boop, out it goes. There it is, somewhere out there. So now Equifax did wind up providing some, identity theft coverage. I think they did it for 2 years. Maybe they had to do it, I think, for a little bit longer after that. But the moral of the story is it's still, the identity thieves know. They just have to wait to use that information. So if anybody knows of anybody that has been involved in the Equifax, or maybe you don't know if you have, you can go to the FTC. This is the easiest way. If you go to ftc.gov, and then in the little search bar, just type in Equifax, and it'll come up, and you can click on and enter in your information, and it'll tell you whether or not you were or were not involved in it. And if you were, what you can do. Another one I want to talk about is the Anthem breach. This was a few years ago, I think 2014. And they lost 80 million records. And see, it contained name, birthdays, medical information, medical ID, social security numbers, street address, email addresses, employment information, including income data. Nice, right? Imagine the poor people that were victims of both of these. Everything and anything about them is out there. So that's something that unfortunately we cannot do anything about, these data breaches, but it's just something we really need to be aware of. And every time that there is a data breach announcement, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And I don't think any of us really, we're like, oh yeah, another one. Okay. Oh, Marriott, 400 million. Oh, Facebook, 500 million. Nobody really thinks about what's going to happen, but the identity thieves are like, woohoo, we got another one, So I wanted to just show you, let me see here. Oh, this was a good one. So Yahoo, they had a breach, 3 billion with a B email accounts. And then what they did was they waited and waited. And then about, I don't know how many years later, they sent out an email to all of those people saying that we know that you were looking at inappropriate things on your computer while logged into your Yahoo account, and we can prove it to you because here's your username and password that you were using while you were in there. Mm-hmm. And we have a big list of all of you dirty little people out there that we're gonna make it public. But if you send us $500, we'll take your name off the list. Mm-hmm. So some people obviously did send the money, and then the FBI eventually caught on to the whole thing and shut that scam down at least. But yeah, a little bit crazy, the data breaches. So data breaches everywhere. All right. Anybody have anything? We're getting to the end of our little presentation here. Nobody? All right, here's my story now. Okay. So as we know, everything and anything about us is being tracked. And I know that sounds a little like, woo, but it's very, very true. Whether it be tracking on your phone, another thing you should do is when you get a chance is open up your phone and go to your settings and check on apps that have access to your location, your photos, your microphone, and your camera. Why they need all this access, I don't know, but we just give it to them when we're signing up for the app. So take a look at that, and you can shut some of it off on some of them. Some of them, not really, but it's just a good thing to know who has access to what on your device. So this is my little story. So this is a story about one of these arsonists, one of these lovely people lighting police cars and buildings on fire. So she was caught on one of the street cams, and she was wearing a red shirt. And it was a very unique red shirt. So the investigators did some investigating, and they found out that the shirt was sold on Etsy. So they went on Etsy, they found the person that was selling them, they went through and reviewed all of the purchases, they went through and then reviewed all of the reviews, and then looked those people up on social media to see which one of them looks like the girl with the red shirt, and they actually caught her. That good? That's a good story. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that one. So now it's time for question and answers. If anybody has any questions or anybody has anything that yes, hi, Melissa.
I'm wondering if there are any settings that parents can put on the computers to protect their kids from accessing or, strangers getting into, I'm not sure what settings, but I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old grandson and a 4-year-old, and I'm worried because they're on these things all the time, and I don't know what other people, predators and stuff that could access them. So is there a way to protect them?
I'm not exactly 100% sure on that IT side of things about that, but I can certainly ask that guy that I was talking about at the beginning of the presentation, Josh, because I'm sure he's got something or some way. And if anybody here has, go ahead, Tom. You got to unmute you.
I mean, every browser has a place where you can put different levels of security, where even like filtering for even on the search engines. I'm pointing to my browser, which nobody can see me do online here, but there's also several services that you can subscribe to that basically provide filtering for children that kind of run as a front door over top the browser. I mean, I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but I work for state government, and every year we do a cybersecurity thing to the schools. And every year I go out and talk to fourth graders about cybersecurity. And we also have a handout that goes out to parents that has different things like this in it, as far as things you should talk to your kids about. But in the browsers themselves, I can throw something together where in each of the browsers, where you find your basically your security settings. And you can even on your browsers, if you want to lock them down, even on your computer, have different logons for each of the users in your house with different levels of security. So I mean, the short answer is there's a lot of ways to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll find some simple, non-technical. Tom, you and I we should have a chat. Then maybe we can put something together that we could show people.
I worked in K-12 school systems for about 15 years. So
Awesome.
I know about proxies, firewalls, and how to keep them little rascals safe.
Great. Well, that's awesome. Great. Well, I'm definitely going to reach out to you, Tom, so we can put a little something together for everybody, because I'm sure you have a ton of helpful information.
Yeah, OpenDNS is another service out there that's free for home use or whatever that you can set up, and then you can set up that on like your router level. I don't want to get too technical or whatever, but it's a pretty easy setup, and they have some pretty straightforward guides where it's a web filtering that you can have it protected on your whole entire network, so it doesn't matter what computer, what device you log on, it will protect it on that global level too. I'm sure Tom has probably heard about that as well. So.
Well, Scott, maybe what we could do is we could get together and have a conversation, and then I can break it down literally. Maybe we can build like a step-by-step of what somebody would have to do, because that's when we start to lose all of the non-technical people like me.
Absolutely.
But, okay, I'll reach out to you.
I posted a link for family safety on Windows. Simplify your family life. Can you see it in the chat?
Let me look at, there's people in the chat. I didn't even look at the chat. Let me see. Let's see here. Okay, yes, I see. So that link, so good, that'll be in the recording then, so people will get that. So you can either click on, you don't want to click on it now because we're still on this, but tomorrow, you can click on that. Okay. And what is that one about? Keeping families safe. Okay.
Yep.
All right, great.
It's safer, set time limits, filter content, avoid surprise spending.
Yeah, that's another one. Hear a little bit about that.
There's also software you can install on your kids' computers and devices where they're timed. So like if you don't want them on the device to search the internet or whatever, like 9 to 7 in the morning, you can put that on there and it blocks them from doing such things like that.
That's
Because
right,
I know
Freddie.
the teenagers I work with, they're like up all night, doing like that because I'll get all kinds of craziness on the team's Facebook pages and stuff like that overnight.
That's right. You're a teacher too. Got some good stuff here.
Thank you.
Yes, this is awesome. Okay. Does anybody else have a question that they'd want to ask or any other input that they want to ask about roughly anything we talked about?
I'll just mention The Great Hack. Did anybody see that? And if not, I recommend it. It's on Netflix. It's a documentary on how they use all of this information that you're talking about, like how they heard about the pond pool, and because all of our information goes out to 1,000 different resources. And when you realize the power of that, what they can do with that knowledge, it's very, very scary. And it's just something that people should really understand what they're doing with our data and how it, it changes election outcomes and stuff like that. So it's very powerful, but the most people have no idea what they're doing really with this information and how they can manipulate it all.
Yep, I know. I have a saying, diamonds and dogs are our best friend, but our data is our most valuable asset. And people don't realize every day those Facebook quizzes are giving this away, giving that away. It's like information here, information there. And again, that's why we all need to start talking about this so we can, try and get a little bit ahead of things.
And the other thing, the other link there that when you're on your phone and you're looking at like Amazon is connected with Facebook. So like you were saying, all of a sudden you had the advertisement for the pond. The same thing happened to me the other day. I put an order on Amazon and then all of a sudden the same exact thing is showing up on Facebook. So I went in and started checking the settings on Facebook, and it tells you that they all communicate together, and it will show up and it'll link all of your accounts. So yeah.
That's a great point too, Renee. That everybody should go into their Facebook, even their LinkedIn, and just go through the privacy settings and double check, what you have. And also check too, especially on LinkedIn, there's a thing that says where your account is logged in. And one time I'm like, where are all these places that logged into here? But it had to do with the VPN that I was using. So anyway, it was legit, but I got very nervous about it. So anyway, but that's a very good point, is to check. You're right. It says right there, you're allowing access for so-and-so to look at this, to see this. So I guess they probably have to disclose it, but it's buried in the privacy settings or whatever, security settings.
Well, yeah, and when you download an app on your phone, it tells you you need to turn this on or enable this, and like, no, I don't allow any of it. And I have one app that came back and said, well, it won't work if you don't enable. Okay, goodbye.
Well, the kids, they don't think, they like, oh, what do I need to do? I got to get this app. Whatever I need to do, they're just clicking away to make sure they can get it on there as fast as they can.
Yep.
That's not good. But.
Well, yeah, see, like he was saying a few minutes ago, there's a little device that you can add that blocks them from certain times. Now, my nieces and nephews all have that on their phones and their tablets. So because they were up all night. I have an 8-year-old nephew who was up all night long playing games on the tablet. So like, and the school kept saying, all he does is sleep when he's in school, doesn't he? So when they checked, they caught him, and they put that device on the phone, on the tablet, and it monitors and blocks them from getting on the internet and doing any of that stuff. So I mean, that's just another way of tracking what the kids are doing.
Kids, the phone should have a bedtime too, because they can't help themselves. I think it's an addictive thing. And even if they do fall asleep and then they hear something chiming, oh, what's that? So I got to get back to somebody, and it just never ends. It just keeps going on all night long.
Yep. Do not disturb mode.
Exactly. Or leave your phone downstairs. And then they say, oh, I need an alarm clock. Well, then get them an alarm clock. I mean, there's other ways. We all had alarm clocks before we had our phones, right next to our beds.
Yep.
So anyway, anybody else have anything? This was really good. I'm so happy the way that this went. I think everybody's like helping contribute. And that's exactly what I wanted this to be, was to have everybody bringing ideas. Everybody is an expert in something. And, the more we can share with each other, and then we go and then share it with other people, spread our message. All right. Anything else? Anybody? No? All right. Well, I'm going to send the recording out tomorrow with some of those links I had mentioned. I'll just send that in the email. That's why I want to make sure everybody's getting the email. But again, I'll also invite everybody to that group on LinkedIn, because then what I can do is I can post it there too. So we'll have our follow-up after the meeting, whatever, with the links, whatever we talked about, a summary of everything will be in LinkedIn, as well as the email, because we know sometimes emails get a little picky as to which ones they want to let through. So, all right, everybody. Well, everybody have a great evening, and thank you very much for your time. This was a lot of fun, and I hope everybody learned a little something. I know I did. And we'll see you around next time.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.